Well, this morning I've hiked up into some high country here in the Adirondacks, and it's a wet snow up here. It was kind of rainy in the night a little bit, but it's nice quiet going. And I've been walking, I don't know, 2-3 miles at least. Not a lot of deer in this area. I've seen just a couple tracks. I see one track, a small deer, coyotes are chasing, and I've seen a couple old buck tracks, and that's all I've seen this distance. But I decided to go up high up in these mountains this morning. I don't know, just try something. Maybe there's some up here, and I finally just cut a track that looks pretty good. It's not like tracks in Maine, but it's a pretty good looking track, good two claws, good stride, dragging his feet some, so. And it's made, I don't think it's more than a few hours old, so. And it looks like it's headed up into some green tops in these mountains here. He's heading up in there. Maybe he's heading up to lay down. Maybe I catch up to him up in there and see what happens. But I'm going to poke along on it, see if I can get a look at him. His track right here. Well, I've been following this buck a little ways, and he got up in the mountain a little higher, up in the hardwoods, and been a couple other bucks here in the night. Well, one might be him coming down, but there's another track that's bigger. It's a real nice big track going down. Older, quite a bit older, washed out, but I know it's made in the night because it's pushing up. The wet snow, it started warming up, in the early evening there, so. But it's a really big track, so I'm gonna opt for the bigger track over the fresher track. So he's headed down where I think there should be some does down in them bottoms, so he might get hung up down there. We're gonna get on this one anyway. I'll show it to you. That older track I've been on, I've got it freshened up. He's come around, kind of a big knob up in the mountain there. Come down and laid down, got up. He's been feeding all over the place in here, feeding around. And the track keeps getting fresher. I don't think I'm very far from him, really. It's not fresh, but it's freshening up anyways. He could be right here, because there's a lot of feeding right here, and there's been at least one other buck in here too. In the fresh track, I left the smaller one this morning, just a while back, is just below me a little bit. And then another buck about the same size come off up around the top of the knob, and that one's going, they're all kind of going the same way. So I'm just going to go real easy on this track, see what happens. Well, I got this figured out here. I come to some chasing tracks back and forth in here, so evidently there was a doe in here, and this buck got down here and started chasing her around back and forth, and I think I bumped them because they either got up and went on their own, but I finally worked down, and I came to two beds. They were little ways apart. Tracks running out of them fresh down over the hill, so I may have spooked them. I was up above there, and they may have seen me. I was looking pretty good, but either that or they could have just gone on their own and started chasing again. But I definitely spent the whole night right in here. That buck was, I guess he was pretty anxious. He's ramming around in here, and he rubbed on this maple here. See the bark and the trees and stuff, but the track was melted out quite a bit. Once I got it freshened up, it's not, I mean, it's a nice track, but it's not no big monster track. But anyways, he must be one of the dominant bucks. He's got that doe, so we'll see what happens here. Well, I jumped him. He got up in the top here, and this, it's mixed with some birch and spruce and fir, and he started feeding. I knew he was going to be right in there, but it's deathly still there, and that crunch to the snow from the crust underneath, and I thought maybe I'd catch up to him before he laid down, but I didn't. But he hadn't been laying down very long. Now he's headed right down off the mountain, down into the bottom, so I'll give him a little time and see where he goes.
Stop. Stop.
Tell us what's going on.
We've been walking for about 8 miles now, and we finally got a track.
How far?
Out back of our house. We got a small buck track in amongst a lot of moose tracks. So we gotta find out where he went. Bye.
As you can see, my honey's being shy. It's the day after Thanksgiving. We got some beautiful snow here, about 8 inches of snow the night before last, and we come out back this morning just to poke around. Then a bunch of moose, they live here in the winter. And I found a crossing last fall out here scouting for moose, and we no more than got to it, and there's a buck track come right down it. Not a big buck, but we're going to follow it and see where it goes. Might lead us to a big buck, or maybe we'll catch up to it. Right now it's in these 4 or 5 year old cuts. It's kind of slashy in here, but where he's headed, it goes down out of this stuff. I think gets in a little bit better stuff, so we'll see what happens. This is track.
On a small buck track, but he's got a okay sized bed, so he's not, probably 2.5-year-old. He hasn't got a really big foot on him, but maybe he's got a nice rack. So onwards. It's getting late in the day.
This buck just come down. There's a spruce and cedar bog down in there. After that buck laid down, he come down into this, and right up the edge of it, we just picked up a monster buck track. There's a doe track going one way, and the buck track's going backwards on it, but it's a real big track, so gotta decide if my honey wants to switch tracks, get on the big one. We'll see what she says. heard it. That's a 3x4 track. Get on it. See where he goes. Well, we followed that big buck and he come over into some softwood choppings, and all of a sudden there was a bunch of deer, and that deer were going everywhere, walking and feeding. We started just going real easy, and that buck was searching around through there, and I come to some running tracks, like been chasing some does in here or something, and we just kind of easing along a skid road. It was pretty whippy in there. It was pretty noisy. We didn't have much wind at the time, and we were coming up this little hill, and I heard a deer blow. So we kind of just eased ahead quickly up so we could look over down the skid road. I could hear him cracking, and we've been fooling around trying to figure out if it was a buck or what was going on, but we just found where it was the big buck that came in here, I guess, or a big buck, and he went out of here with two other deer, so evidently got in with a doe, but they're headed kind of the wrong direction, and it's getting late. It's getting late in the day, but the wind's coming up and it's starting to snow. It's pretty good going, but they're going right straight away from where we need to go, and I don't want my honey to get too tired. I gotta get her back.
I got my gun up though. There's a moose. He's running. So I got to get my gun up. I could hear him coming. There's a moose.
Hey, it's well, beginning of December here. It's muzzleloader season in Maine, and I got my buddy Steve on a track this morning. We're back here in Maine, up in Jackman, and it was been cold, and we got about 8 inches of snow the other day, but it warmed up yesterday on Sunday, and about the middle of the day, and it stayed warm in the night. The tracks are melted, you know, you can see, so it's got to be careful which one you get on, but there's I got Steve on a track going into a big block of woods, and I circled around it with a truck, and there's another good buck going in there. And then where I was gonna park anyways and get out and walk around, there was another big buck come up by the bottom, and he's crossed this old road, and he's gone kind of up into it's kind of the same piece of woods, but it's another. They're all good big buck tracks. I'm gonna follow this one just to see if I can maybe get him on film here. So I got my buck. I ain't hunting. I'm just fooling around. Good time to scout. Figure out where there's some bucks left for next year and where they're traveling. So I ain't been down in this country for 3, 4, 5 years. I haven't been down in here, but so far it looks good with some good big buck tracks. So I'll show you this track, and then I'm going to just poke around on it if I might catch up to him. Hey, you know, it's crazy how things happen. You just get in the woods and get poking around doing things. But I get on that buck track, made in the night, probably maybe towards morning. Get in the woods there, and it was probably hadn't hardly got in there, and there was some doe tracks and stuff, you know, it's kind of a old chop in there and thick. I bet I hadn't been on this buck for 300, 400 yards at the most, and came right across the smoking fresh tracks. Just made, I don't think it's 15 minutes old. I mean, it's really, really fresh track, nice buck. And so I just called Steve on the radio, and he's coming along now. He wasn't too far from me on that other buck, but I'm gonna get him right on this fresh one here. So here he comes. I've been poking along here on that buck. I left cross paths with Steve again, and we're right in this. What it is, it's an old clear cut. It's regeneration, and it's, you know, 20-foot tall spruce and fir and slashy maple, and it's an awful place in here to try to shoot one. You just have to go easy and hope you could hear one ramming around coming towards you or something. But they'd gone out in the hardwoods for a minute, out of this, and then right back in it. And the buck was following the doe, got on a doe and chased her out of here in the hardwoods, and they came back in here. And there was another buck. It kind of followed along, and they got in this, back in this chopping a little bit, and the doe started feeding. The buck made a couple scrapes, and then all of a sudden the tracks they don't have no snow in them. I crossed paths with one, and we had a little snow during the day, just a little sprinkle, and I was working on those tracks, but all of a sudden, crystal clear tracks, and it's less than an hour now, and I come to a buck fight. Evidently that other buck caught up to the one with the doe, and they had a fight right over here in this thicket. I didn't hear it, so I was still a little ways behind, but evidently one of them bucks was the one Steve was on, so I'm letting him catch up. Take one of them bucks out of here and see what happens. It'll be pretty, like I said, pretty hard chance to shoot one in here unless they've been chasing around a little bit and back and forth. And the only thing to do in here is just tiptoe along easy and hope you hear one cracking along, coming back around towards you. So Steve gets here, we'll get back on. It's getting late in the day now. We never got started today till, oh shoot, it was probably 11:30. We got a late start. He had to get his hunting license. We had to sight the gun in, and so it's all right. We got about an hour left, but the truck ain't that far. It's almost 3 o'clock, and he's pretty dim in the woods at 4, so might get lucky. Might get lucky in here. It's a pretty good bunch of deer in here. See what happens. Well, second morning of muzzleloader season here in Maine. We never got a look at one of them bucks yesterday there, but come to a new spot today. I thought there'd be a little more. We got a dusting of snow in the night, but it's not much. We got about a half an inch, I guess. But I want to try another spot, so we've walked way back in here a couple miles, and just got into a bunch of deer. They've been zigzagging in the road here. It's a road here you can't drive. It's just an old logging road. So I just cut this. I got Steve on a buck chasing a doe, and it's heading up the ridge into some cuts, and I no more and got back down in the road, and I come across another buck track come up out of there. I think he followed that buck and doe, and I think the other one was dominant, so he struck off, but he's got a big track. I'm gonna follow it along, see if I can figure out what he's doing. His track right here is pretty nice, got a good stride. Going right up the road, covering some ground, but out here in the road, the snow's melted down to, I don't know, an inch and a half or something like that, and he's dragging his feet right up the road, an inch and a half of snow. I like them bucks that do that. So, follow him along, see what happens. Well, had a good day today. Followed buck tracks about all day, just kind of scouting around. I never really was trying to catch up to anything. I just kept making circles and kind of pinpointing where the deer had been hanging here. But coming pretty near the end of the day here, I'm waiting on Steve to come out. He's on his way out. He didn't catch up to that buck he was on. There was 2 bucks actually went. The buck that I got on when I left him this morning turned and went up in towards him, so I left that one. And he crossed paths 2 or 3 times. I'm down in there about a mile from where we started. And them 2 bucks have crossed paths a couple times. Well, I made a little fire. It's kind of cold here. I made a little fire and warming up my sandwich. We'll head on out.
That's a great shot.
He just took off.
You get him?
Yeah.
Oh, he didn't take off.
Yes, he did. He's
This
right
one
there.
here.
Up here, right above your head.
Oh, there's one right there.
What are you doing?
I was looking down further. What?
Relax, man. Where's that patience, bud?
Forget it. Talking to the wrong man. That shit rolls off my back. Huh.
Get him?
Yep.
Good job.
Am I gonna hit that log back there?
You're right almost up against it.
About now.
If you look at your mirror, you're going to see where you're going to ride up against it maybe.
put that away anytime. I'm gonna need some help.
We're on another one of Hal's excellent adventures. Got the truck mired coming in here. Not mired really, it's just a big steep slope. So we hooked up the winch. That popple tree, and he's got the winch. He's gonna haul the truck. Gotta be prepared out here. Nobody's gonna come get us. Look out your window! A little bit more. Good.
There better be a big buck down here for you, Woody, for me going through this. Back in the big country.
I'm going to say something. I'm going to coin a new phrase. I survived another Hal's excellent adventure. Never know what you're going to get into with you.
Good thing we got the old power wagon. Well, I should say the new power wagon.
Yeah, that winch saved us right there. We weren't getting out of that.
No, it's all like ice. That wet snow's tacked right down like ice.
All right, here we go. 2, 4, 5. Oh, there's my dump. It's under the thing, hidden. Here we go. Click on. Good to go. Ready to take our gun for a walk? Strap it on. I feel like I put my bra on every time I do this. end of the muzzleloader season, or close to the end of the muzzleloader season up here in Jackman. Got a little bit of new snow, and we got a little bit of rain on it, but it's still pretty good. It's a little tacky, but good. I've been riding the road this morning trying to find a track, and we just came across a young fellow there that saw a deer, 2 deer come across the road, and he shot it in the woods right there. He missed it the first time, ran a few jumps, and then stopped, and he killed it. So good for him, nice 10-pointer. So we're gonna take a jaunt up in here in the woods and see if we can get on one ourselves. So we'll keep you informed. Well, we just got out of the truck and walked down the road, and we didn't go 200 yards, and here's the track. Looks like a pretty good buck. It's only got about 1 inch of snow in there, so it started snowing only at 1:30 this morning. And when we were coming in, it was still snowing pretty good. So, it's not that old, but you never know how far they go. But we're gonna find out how far he goes. Lots of times this year they're tired. They ram during the night and they lay down during the day because they're so worn down from the season. So the snow's got a little crust on it, but it's not too noisy. It breaks pretty easy, so we got a good chance. I wish the wind would come up a little bit, but we got a good chance to get a look at him. And we got one crack at him with the muzzleloader. Let's see what we can do. All right, so let's keep going.
Bed's right there. There's beds right there.
Did he run?
There's a bed right there, though. No. He didn't run. Never mind. Can't you see the track in front of you? Keep your eye peeled.
So we've been going on this buck for maybe 45 minutes or so, and he started to climb high, and Hal's been in here before, so he knew there was some cuts up in here, and we figured he'd be laying up in there, and he was laying up on top, but he got out of his first bed, and he went to the second bed, and I think he heard us coming up because it's deathly still. I know he didn't see us, but he heard us. He just looped down, came down through this little gully, and he's headed up there. Looks like another series of cuts up there. So we're gonna get up over that hill and go as slow as we can. Peek up over that hill. He could be standing out there. We gotta go easy because everything makes a little noise. And it carries because there's no wind. So we're gonna go easy here and see. But I wouldn't say he's too far ahead of us, so we'll see what happens. This is the exciting part right here. I got a pit in my stomach. I love it. Well, as my season has been, if you look up and down here, he's gone to Canada. I wanted to go talk to some French women today, I guess. I don't know. It's too bad. He was just thinking along. He wasn't too far in front of us. I mean, that track was smoking fresh, but that's how it goes sometimes. Still was on a chase, still had a stomach ache, and that was a good thing. I love it. That's what that tracking's all about. Now we gotta walk back. Oh, well. All right, let's get going. What the heck? That one ain't gonna last too long in the winter, huh? Is he right there?
I think that bunny's a little confused. He thought this tire rut was a rabbit run or something.
Is he still right there?
Yeah, he just went into that bush in there.
Oh, yeah.
Never know what you're going to see looking for a track. We just caught another pretty good buck track, and Steve had come out. We got him back on that one, and we're going to go around. We only got a couple hours of daylight left, so we're going to go around, and he's probably going to come through the swamp area, and we'll be over there to pick him up. But maybe we'll see a track on the way for Woodrow. See what happens.
It's the last day of muzzleloader season up here in northern Maine, and I got my buddy Steve on another track this morning. It snowed a little bit around midnight. It quit. It was about a half, 3/4 of an inch, just enough to cover the tracks. I didn't know if we'd find a fresh track this morning, but we found a nice buck track that was just barely a little snow in it. He's been on it for an hour, and he's crossed 2 logging roads, and I just drove up around and cut up to where he crossed, and now he's gone up into some big wild country with no roads at all in it. And I'm gonna follow along behind Steve a little bit and see what can happen. Just started. It had stopped snowing. It hadn't snowed all morning here. And it's 9 o'clock now, and it's starting to snow, some fine snow. So it should be a good day to get one here. We'll see what he can do. I'll show you the track. It's just a real monster buck. This buck's gone probably another pretty near a mile since it crossed that road We're up into some big old growth up in here. It's really nice country. Fairly open. And he's been feeding along. He stopped and feed on some blowdowns and different things and ferns. But I'm going to show you right here. He fed on some little bit of ferns here on a little hump. And you can see his horns in the ground. And it looks like it's a pretty wide rack to me. But there's his horn marks right here. This is one of them ever-ready bucks. Keeps on going. He's pretty much still, he's swung, but he's still straight lining. He swung from the north to the west, but still cruising, stops to feed once in a while, but he'll hang up sooner or later here. But he fed on another little fern here on this hump, and he left some real good horn marks this time. He's got to have a pretty good rack on him, and I can see the beam marks in there. They look pretty thick even out at the end, so it'd be interesting if Steve could shoot this buck, we'd get a better look at it. There's those horn marks here. I don't know how much he swung his head back and forth, but the outside of where them beams are hitting is 2 feet wide, so gotta have something pretty good there. I like it. Pretty exciting being on a buck track no matter what. Well, the old boy came up on this ridge and laid down like they usually do. There's 3 beds here, and he was back up and feeding again, but the timing was just wrong. When Steve come up over the ridge, he was already facing back feeding, so he's off, but we've caught up to him, and time for a little sandwich. Huge bed on it, real huge, big buck.
I didn't see the deer. I just saw the snow flying.